All right, I'm going to get started. So I want to welcome you. Hello, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are attending today's webinar from. Uh, my name is William Schwer. I'm part of the Viterbi Admission and Student Engagement Office on the graduate recruitment and admissions side. I want to welcome and congratulate you on your admission to the Viterbi School of Engineering. This webinar is for admitted master's students in the data science fields, and I'm thrilled to be joined today. I'm only going to do a quick presentation and then hand it off to some of my talented colleagues in the data science field. So this is really your opportunity to get your questions answered and really to listen. I want to emphasize, listen to what they have to say because they have a valuable information, and will probably answer a lot of the questions that you may have coming into today. So there will, of course, be time for questions at the conclusion. So if you do have a question that you don't hear that maybe is answered by one of my colleagues, please feel free to ask. If you have a question, you can ask in the Q&A portion of your Zoom box. Hopefully we've all used Zoom and are familiar with it now. There should be a Q&A window that you can ask your question, and so we kindly request that you ask in that window. So without further ado, I'm just going to go over some broader talking points about our university and the engineering school. So welcome to Southern California, USC. We're a private institution, the oldest private institution on the West Coast, founded back in 1880. That being said, USC is really unique, actually. I've been working here for over 15 years. I absolutely love working here and have seen some really talented students come through the pipeline. And hopefully you're going to be next. But that being said, so USC, what's unique, I'd say, is we actually have more graduate students at USC than undergrads out of our total student population. So we have about 49,000 or so total students at the university. The majority are actually graduate students. So we have about 27,000 graduate students at USC, and that's pretty unique when you're looking across the spectrum of universities between public, private. So chances are, even within the engineering school, we have more graduate students than undergrads. So you're going to be, if you choose to enroll, you're going to be amongst fellow grad students more than likely. And it's just a really, I'd say, studious environment for graduate students pursuing their graduate studies. Now, where we're located is Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a large metropolitan city. There's a lot of opportunities for students, both on campus, but also outside of campus. USC has a lot of things to offer its students already. And on top of that, students can seek other opportunities outside of campus too. And we show this LA as global hub for innovation. So what's nice is our proximity to industry. And I always tell students, it's really nice for students because if you get an interview, you don't necessarily have to fly out of the city that you're in to maybe go to your interview and then fly back and maybe miss a day of school. Here at USC, we have a lot of top companies already in Los Angeles that our students can just interview with during the middle of the day, and they can take a car, an Uber, or drive, or even take a metro shuttle to some of the areas where a lot of these companies are located. So it's really nice, our proximity to industry, and you see some of the obviously the more well-known players in the Silicon Valley game who've moved down to Silicon Beach, close to the water, which is really nice. Other things to do in Los Angeles in terms of our location. So if you look at a map, we're not exactly along the coast. We're more close to what's considered downtown Los Angeles, okay? And there's a lot to do even in and around downtown Los Angeles where we are. So you can see there, directly across the street is USC Village, and there's Trader Joe's, for those of you who are familiar with that, a Target, and a number of little restaurants and eating places and just places to kind of hang out. It's a really nice area. The Natural History Museum and California Science Center is right across the street as well, and it's actually free for students. So those are two museums that are directly across the street that are pretty awesome for students to be able to access. And then you see a lot of the other venues and options available for students if they just want to get out of campus and sightsee. So USC in Los Angeles is a great city for that. I want to mention before handing it off a few more things. One is our mentorship program that we have within the Viterbi Admission and Student Engagement Office. This is a really nice program, and I think it really does a good job of connecting current students with incoming students. We recognize that it can be intimidating, and you can have a lot of unknown when taking the leap into graduate school, especially if you're coming from outside of state, outside of the country, or overseas to Los Angeles. And so our mentorship program that we have is current Viterbi graduate students that internally we pair up with incoming students. It's an opt-in program. So if it is something that you're interested in, you will opt into it. You'll get an email from our admission and student engagement office that has more information and gives a link on how to sign up to be a mentee, to be teamed up with a mentor. But this is just one thing that I wanted to put on your radar because I think it is something, it's a resource that we have that's available for students that I feel is really valuable and help just getting better acclimated once you arrive on campus. That being said, our community is great. I think we have a strong community within the engineering school and then obviously within USC at large. There is a mobile app that you can download that lists all the events and activities that are going on that are USC affiliated and student orgs promote as well. Finally, our statement of intent. So this is what you fill out online. Used to be a piece of paper, now you go online and fill it out. And once you submit the statement of intent, if you choose to enroll at USC, you'll start getting a lot of these emails about orientation, again, the mentorship program, additional information about specific webinars that your academic advisor, you'll get an email from them about meeting with them. And so housing, all the things on here. You'll start getting a lot more USC specific information related to your arrival. And then finally, our deadline. For most of you, you will have an April 15th deadline, but the best resource to check is the USC portal. You can view your admission letter and it will show what your commitment deadline actually is. As I mentioned, most of you will probably have that April 15th deadline. And for international students who still have financial documents to be submitted, you can scan that QR code as well, but we do have a separate Trojan International system for you to submit those documents. That's all for my portion of this. So right now, I do want to hand it off to my colleague, Stephen Pham. He is in the I think he manages like cybersecurity, but he is in the data science programs department. So he's kind of expert in that area. So I do want to hand it off. And again, congratulations on your admission and take it away, Steve.
Thanks, William. I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Give me 1 second. But yeah, William is correct. My name is Steve Pham. I'm the Senior Associate Director of MS programs across all of data science, actually. So I will manage basically any student that is in the session here today. If you've been admitted into USC and certified to data science, I will be the lead advisor as well as the person who will handle a lot of the concerns and questions that students have. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then we'll go ahead and get started on the presentation that I have for you all today. Similar to William, this presentation will be pretty short, but I do ask for your full attention just because I think a lot of the questions that you all may have can be and will be answered in this presentation, but we'll also have a lot of time at the end to answer any questions that you might have as well. I'm also joined here by two of my colleagues, Idanya Takimoto and Flor Martinez, who are also advisors for the data science program. So if you do certify here and start your program here, we'll be the folks that will be assisting you with some of the questions and concerns that you have. With that being said, I do want to briefly go over the data science program as well as just data science in general here at USC. So if you're all familiar with data science, which I hope you are, since you're applying to data science here at USC, data science is a very, very diverse area. There's a lot of different topics, a lot of different pathways, a lot of different areas of study within data science itself. So real briefly, just going through this page, if we're taking a look at data science here at USC, there's four main categories that we take a look at. On the far left side, we see data science as it relates to computer science. So although there are a lot of crossover, computer science is its own area, an area of study. At USC, we have areas such as the MS in computer science with a specialization in data science. So these are typically for students that have a computer science undergraduate degree or have an extensive background in computer science and they want to dip their toes into data science. We also have other areas such as masters in computer science as it relates to artificial intelligence. And although artificial intelligence and data science is not the same thing, there are a lot of data science courses that students take when they're in the artificial intelligence program. We also have other programs at the undergraduate level, as well as scientists and engineers, which is for students that don't have a background in computer science. The two areas in the middle is where many of you will actually fall. So in the second column, you'll see engineering with a more split between computer science and data science. And the third column, which is going to be engineering with data science as well as a partnership with other schools. So essentially every student in this situation or in this session today will be in one of our main data science programs that includes Masters in Applied Data Science, Cybersecurity Engineering, but then also we have joint programs with MS Communication Data Science, which is with the Annenberg School, and then we have Environmental Data Science, which is with Dornsife, as well as MS in Healthcare Data Science, which is with Biomedical Engineering. So we do have a lot of different areas within data science. Like I mentioned, data science is just a very diverse area, and there's a lot of interdisciplinary programs and interdisciplinary areas that students can take a look at when they're searching for the program that is the right thing for them. We'll discuss possibilities of transfer and taking other classes from other departments later in the session. But just note that there are a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different options for students once they get to USC. And then lastly, we just have areas of study in other schools. So these programs are not a part of our department. These are not within computer science or data science at Viterbi. So for a good example of this would be the Marshall School of Business. They actually have a program in business analytics, which some of those students actually end up taking classes in our programs. Then we have other programs which is in Keck called neuroimaging and informatics. So you'll see informatics and data science, those terms thrown out here and there, but essentially when we think about it here at USC, we consider informatics and data science relatively similar. In terms of department leadership, for students that attended the on-campus session, I believe 2 weeks ago, some of these slides may be familiar, but just a quick run through. At Viterbi, we do have a series of chairs and directors that students have the opportunity to actually meet and get acquainted with if you ever end up doing research or if you ever just have questions about their background. Our department chair is Nenad Medvedovic. The associate chair of MS programs is Stefanos Nicolaitis, and then for students within data science, the next couple of folks would be very important. So director of interdisciplinary programs, once again, these are communication data science, healthcare data science, environmental. This would be Emilio Ferrara. He's our lead for all students in those separate programs. For students in cybersecurity engineering, Clifford Neiman will actually be the professor for a lot of your classes, and he's also the director of the program. And then once again, just some joint directors that students may want to get familiar with if they're in one of these other programs would be Jessica Neff, who is our lead for communication data science on the Annenberg side, Brent Liu for healthcare data science, and then Sean Frega and Jill Sohm for environmental data science. Really quickly, just going through these different programs, essentially all of our data science programs at USC will be 32 units, which is 8 courses. Most of our courses you'll find at USC are going to be 4 units, or at least in our department will be 4 units. The only program that is 28 units is just the cybersecurity engineering program. So a quick update for students that have already certified or plan on certifying. You'll get information regarding your first semester courses sometime over the summer. This will likely come usually around July. So I always tell students, if you plan on certifying and you're worried about when to register, I'll just keep an eye out on your USC email sometime in July, and we'll give you all the information and instructions about how to get registered for the upcoming semester. Important things to know is regarding advisement. So at USC, and specifically in our computer science and data science programs, students have a lot of different advisors that will be able to work with you to help you with a lot of different questions and concerns that you might have. The three are essentially listed here. The first would be your computer science and data science advisement team. That would be myself and the other folks that are here today, Adanya, Floor, and we have another advisor, Erica Kim, who's not here today. But our role as academic advisors within the department is to help you stay on track to graduate. We always help students with course planning, questions about curriculum, questions about courses. So anything academic related, a lot of the times will be the person to help you answer those questions. For students that are in joint programs, once again, communication, healthcare, environmental data science, as well as cybersecurity engineering, you also have a separate advisor in the home department of the other school. So for example, for folks that are in the communication data science program, you'll have an Annenberg advisor who will help you with an Annenberg side of things. So on our side, the CS and data science team, we primarily focus on the data science courses and the tech courses that you'll be taking. For students that are in the joint programs, for example, maybe healthcare, if you have questions about biomedical engineering in the biomedical side, you'll have an advisor there who will be able to assist you with those questions as well. So more information regarding those advisors will come later during registration, which, like I mentioned, will come around July. And then lastly, the third advisor that you'll be working with, depending on your situation, will be the VACE team. So if you're a DEN student or if you're an international student, the VACE team will be a very important contact that you will want to get familiar with during your time here at USC. If you're an international student, questions related to CPT, OPT, RCL, and program extensions will go to your VACE advisors. Another thing is for DEN, which is Distance Education Network. You'll know if you're a DEN student, typically it's just the online program for the programs that we offer here in data science. But for questions related to DEN, whether that be how to take your exams, how to attend office hours, how to register for DEN specific courses, that will go to the VACE team within DEN. So once again, I know there's a lot of different advisors that you'll see on here, but just know that we're all here to support you during your time here, whether that be academic related, questions regarding course planning, questions regarding your international status, and so on and so forth. And then just real quickly going through this. Once again, our team is very small, although we do have a very, very large student population. My name is Steve. Once again, I'm the Senior Associate Director. And then I have a team of 3 folks that are here with me, Flora, Danya, and Erica Kim. Once students do certify to USC, and if you do have questions regarding anything that I mentioned earlier, the email to contact would be vsd-dsms@usc.edu. An important thing to note is that at USC, and specifically in our program, we do not have assigned advisors for students. The reason for this is we have a very large student population. Like I mentioned, I think at this point we have over 3,000 students in our population and 4 advisors. So to avoid just assigning each advisor 1,000 students to assist with, we created this email system and as well as a ticket system for students to ask questions, and then any advisor that is on call or any advisor that gets assigned to your case will be able to assist you and get your questions answered a lot more quickly. When it comes to advisement, we'll go over that a little bit later as well, but for advisement, students are able to book with any one of our advisors through our system. So you'll be able to meet with advisors and get your questions answered in a very quick time frame based on the setup and advisement structure that we have here at USC. And then just real quickly for students that, once again, do plan on certifying, Fall 2025 courses and the steps to register will be emailed to you sometime in July. So just keep an eye out for that. William mentioned this a little bit earlier, but for students that have international status, please make sure that you complete immigration status verification first. So if you're an international student, you will not be able to register until you come to the US and complete this verification process. For DEN students, you'll also be receiving an email from our department around the same time frame in July regarding how to register for fall. But just note that your registration process is a little bit different than on-campus students. Then lastly, just the deadline to register will be, well, the deadline to register to avoid late fees will be August 22nd. So classes actually start the following Monday, which I believe is August 25th. So you still have a lot of time. We'll give registration information in July, and it gives students more than a month to register for their classes. Lastly, just a couple common questions that we have here in our department for students that ask about whether they could transfer graduate units into their programs. Just one thing to know is that students can transfer up to 25 units of their graduate program to USC. So the important thing to know about this is, let's say you're in a 32 unit program, 25% of that would be 8 units. So if you do have courses or graduate level courses from a previous degree that you didn't complete, or maybe you took graduate courses in undergrad, or maybe you took classes in extension, you are eligible to have those courses transferred to USC. But you first do need to complete the transfer courses. You have to have your transfer courses evaluated by the registrar's office before our department could review them. And then another question is, what classes should I take in my first semester? Which is obviously a very big question. Depending on your degree track, you will be placed in 2 courses by our department. Every single first semester student, you will always get placed in your first 2 courses. Then after that, students later will be able to decide which courses they can take or want to take per semester. But once again, I've said this plenty of times already, but just keep an eye out for an email in July if you do end up certifying. Your course placement and registration information will be sent there. And then lastly, is there a minimum or maximum class unit requirement for each semester? So as I mentioned earlier, most of our courses are going to be 4 units. So a full-time status for students is going to be 8 units. If you're a domestic student or you have permanent residency, you don't have to register in 8 units. You go register half-time and be taking 4 units per semester. However, if you are an international student, international students must be registered in 8 units per semester or essentially maintain full-time status. So it just depends on your status. One thing to note is that if you are not planning on registering for any units, let's just say you are planning to take a leave of absence, or maybe you plan on working an internship, or maybe you just don't want to take classes this upcoming semester, you will need to notify our department as soon as possible. So you can't really just take a leave and do that on your own. You do have to notify our department so we could we could place a leave on your record. If you don't, there are a lot of penalties that students can get placed on their record if they don't notify the department first. So once again, if you plan on doing any sort of leave of absence, or you don't plan on coming to USC for whatever amount of time, please let our department know as soon as possible. And then with that being said, I do believe we have just a quick little bit of time for any Q&A. I don't see any questions in the Q&A section, but if you do have any questions, we have about a couple minutes or so for that. If not, we could go ahead and just move on to the student panel that we have planned for the rest of the time today. But if you do have questions, this would be the perfect time. So I see a question from Bruce. Will non-DEN students have access to recordings and classes? So that's a great question. So typically, you would have to be in a DEN course or a DEN enabled course to have access to the recordings. It depends on the professor though. So one thing, the first way to answer this is not every single class is available on DEN. We only have a select amount of courses that are offered on DEN. I would say probably about a third of our courses are on DEN. And then if you're on the on-campus section, what you could do is ask the professor if the DEN recordings would be available to you. That's definitely possible. Some professors will allow it, some professors won't. It just depends on the faculty member. But if you're in if you're in a course that isn't DEN eligible, let's say you're just registered in a regular on-campus course and they don't have a DEN section, those sections won't be recorded. Depending on the professor, they might record it on their own, but for the most part, if it's not DEN enabled, a professor won't provide the DEN recordings. What percentage of the, I believe, MS and applied data science class is international? So unfortunately, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I would say a pretty large amount of our students, not just in data science, but across our master's programs in computer science, are students that have international student status. We do have a lot of domestic students as well, but I would say a large majority, or a large population is international. How big is the cohort? So I believe for this fall, we haven't finalized the admitted students yet. But I would say typically from the data that I've seen over the last couple of years, we've typically had around 700 to 800, and sometimes up to 850 data science, sorry, computer science and data science students admitted. I will say computer science is a lot bigger, and they make up the majority of that population. I think for data science, we're probably closer to around 200 to 300 students that are admitted every single semester, or at least for the fall semester, which is our biggest cohort. But one thing to know about the 200 300 students is that they're across all the 5 different programs. So that includes applied data science, healthcare data science, environmental, communication, and cybersecurity engineering. So a lot of students, but spread amongst all of our programs. And then I think we have a time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions before we start the student panel. So, see one opportunity or what networking opportunities are available. So this is a great question. So for students that are interested in networking opportunities, there are a lot of different computer science and data science student organizations on campus. None of them are hosted by our department. All of them are student ran. So this is really a great opportunity for you all to get connected with students in your own program. I know we have the biggest program, which would be Grids. It's a data science graduate students in data science. I believe that's what the program is called. But this is a great opportunity for students to join in because they actually bring folks in industry. So I believe they have folks that have a background in data science, communication data science, and that are already working at big tech companies or working already as data scientists. And they'll actually have them come give presentations and also talk a little bit about their timeline and their process for when they were a student, maybe here at USC or when they did their master's somewhere else, and now currently in the field. But another thing to note is that we also have the Viterbi Career Connections office. So I'll always tell students that being a Viterbi student, you're very, very lucky because at USC, we have a general career center that all students across the university could go to. But as a Viterbi student, you actually have access to the Viterbi Career Connections office, which is essentially the career center just for Viterbi students. So the unique thing about this is something that many of you might know already, but many of you might not. The interview and recruitment process for engineering students, and specifically computer science and data science students, is very different from the recruitment and interview process for students outside of engineering. So as a computer science or data science student, you'll do the typical interview, but a lot of times you'll have technical interviews that you'll need to get done as well. So whether that be answering questions, whether that be coding or analyzing data on the spot. This is what you would be doing when you're doing recruitment during the recruitment season. So the great thing about Viterbi Career Connections is that their team is specifically trained and have a great understanding of the process that you would need to go through for your recruitment process. So they actually have a career fair every fall and every spring semester, which is the biggest times for recruitment. But then they also have a lot of different workshops and a lot of different other programs and fairs and events where they have people from industry. Once again, they have folks from Microsoft, Google, I think they had Uber here, Lyft here, a lot of different tech companies that will come by and actually work with students and discuss, this is what we would want to see on your resume, or this is what we would want to see on your cover letter. And during the career fairs, which is probably the coolest thing, you could actually bring your resume and have it reviewed on the spot, or you could drop it off with a recruiter and they'll actually be taking the resumes back to their company and possibly having those looked at for future positions as well. So there's a lot of great opportunities here when it comes to networking and career and professional development, especially with the Viterbi Career Connections. So once again, I cannot really praise Viterbi Career Connections enough. They're a really great resource that we have here in Viterbi. And then with that, I believe we're at 9:30, which is perfect timing. So we will be moving on to the next portion of today's presentation, which would be a student panel that we have here. I believe, William, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have, I believe, 3 students or 4 students here that will be on the panel list today, and then I'll go ahead and moderate and ask some questions.
I think three, uh, 3 or 4. If you're a student, please turn your camera on so we get them.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Hey, hi. I know Kelly and Devashish. Yeah, thank you. Okay, there we go.
Awesome.
Cliff, yeah.
Great. Okay, well, so I've done a lot of talking already, so I want to minimize that as much as I can. So with that being said, for all the students that are here, these are 4 students that we have here currently at USC, specifically in our data science programs, who will be answering some questions for you. So with that being said, I'll let you do it in whatever order you guys want to do it. But the first question I have for you all is, can you please maybe just provide your name, your major, your hometown, and why you chose to come here to USC, and specifically the data science program.
Hi guys, I can start. My name's Kelly. I'm in my last semester of the Applied Data Science program. I'm originally from the Bay Area, and I decided to choose USC because my undergrad education was very theoretical, and I know that USC focuses very heavily on just creating those transferable skills to really prep you for industry, and that was definitely something I was interested in. So that's kind of why I chose USC, not only for like the project-based courses, but also for like the career help.
I can go next. Hi guys, my name's Cliff. I'm also in applied data science. My hometown is Vancouver, Canada, and I chose the program here at USC because I came in with more of a focus on trying to land a job after my master's, and I thought coming to this program would be super helpful for that, not only because of, like Kelly mentioned, like a lot of the classes focus on transferable skills, but also the proximity to kind of the tech scene on the West Coast. So coming here, that was kind of my goal.
Hi, so I'm Devashish and I'm currently studying healthcare data science at USC. I'm from Mumbai in India, and I mainly chose USC because not only because it is a very prestigious university, but also because the weather is perfect over here. And I actually have an uncle who lives in LA, so as an international student, it is nice to have family over here. And I specifically chose this course because the curriculum is more tailored towards hospital information systems and focuses on medical imaging data in like healthcare data science. So that is why I really like the curriculum of this course.
My name's Joshua. I'm also an applied data science student in my last semester, and my hometown is Leeds, which is in the UK. I chose USC partly because of the location. I thought like living in LA would be pretty cool, and also I really liked kind of the course selection that they had on offer, just through like browsing through the syllabus and stuff for some of the classes. So yeah, that's why I was kind of excited to choose USC.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I think a couple of you actually are helping me segue into the next question, because I think a couple of you mentioned that a lot of the courses that you took were practical in terms of it helped you learn skills that would be important for industry. So the next question I have, and I think this is a big question that a lot of students have when they're deciding on a university, but how can students get involved in or connected with industry during their time here? Can you maybe share some personal experiences that you have with either internships or events, or maybe the advising here, career advising here at USC?
Yeah, for sure. I think I can talk about the alumni network. So, during job search and stuff, especially now, I think it's quite tricky with the tech scene in general. And I think reaching out to alumni, especially USC Viterbi alumni, people are quite receptive to like, the random LinkedIn reach outs and things along those lines. And, once you get some build some rapport and get some conversation going, it can often lead to like a referral, which might be very helpful, especially during these tricky tech recruiting times. So I found the alumni network quite useful during these job search times.
Yeah, and I think related to that, even if excuse me, even if you are cold applying, I think once people hear like the USC name and like the programs you are specifically in, they kind of understand the rigor of the program, and they almost like they kind of understand your work ethic without really having to ask you about it, like where you're coming from, because they know like the level of this program.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those things. And I think another thing that people maybe don't mention as much is a lot of the professors are doing work with like really cool companies. And like something I was able to do was work with one of the professors that I took a class with. And then he ends up working with a bunch of different companies that he consults with. So that's kind of another avenue to like connect yourself with companies, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Joshua said. So the class I'm taking this semester, like we have a project at the end of the course, and we are working with like institutions outside of USC. So like few students are working with professors from UCLA, some of them are working with outside companies. So we even have a classmate who got an internship at Cedars Sinai, and she's collaborating with the research lab at USC and Cedars Sinai. So like it really helps.
That's awesome. Thank you all. Um, maybe changing directions a little bit and talking a little bit about the actual academics of things. So, can you all talk about what classes are like here in the data science program? If you're in another program, like in interdisciplinary program, maybe what are classes like in the other department? Then just in general, how demanding is the coursework here at data science? And I know there's a lot of questions, but lastly, how much time do you spend a week typically studying or doing homework per week?
I think the number spent per week really depends on which classes you're in. I think if you're focusing more, or if you're starting out with the intro courses, for example, your workload might be a little lighter. But let's say if you're taking some of the core courses like DSCI 552, 553, you're definitely going to be spending a lot more time on homework, but also like studying as well. I think for 553 for applied data science, I was probably putting in somewhere like 20 to 25 hours a week, split between studying and homework and things along those lines. But for example, when I took DSCI 510, which is Intro to Python, the number was probably closer to 5/10 hours a week. So I think the range is huge, and it really, really depends on which courses you take. So I guess advice for prospective students just to, take a look at the syllabus, maybe do some Googling, see which courses might be a little trickier than others, and then kind of plan your semester based on that.
Yeah, totally. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but a lot of the classes here are project-based, not just individual projects, but most of the time a lot of group projects as well. So I think depending on your group and how well you guys work together, that also probably skews the amount of hours you're putting in each week. But I think that's like a really great part of the courses here at USC, like the project work, I guess, because it really helps you transfer like the classroom lectures into real work. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. And like there are projects that you're able to talk about in an interview or with someone else too. So it's great work.
Yeah, I would agree with both those things, especially the specific class to work ratio. Also, I think it does kind of depend on how much experience you're going into the program with, like whether you have a background in data science or computer science, that will kind of influence how much catching up you have to do. Um, so yeah, I would say it's definitely manageable, but some classes are much harder than others, and kind of prepare for that. definitely manageable.
Hi, so I'm in an interdisciplinary course. So for my other classes, which are at the biomedical engineering department, I don't find them to be much challenging. I would spend around 10 to 12 hours every week. But for the data science courses, so the introductory courses are like very easy. So I was not like spending a lot of time on them. But as I think Cliff mentioned, that for machine learning and data mining courses, which is 552 and 553, I found myself spending more time. Also, I don't have a computer programming background. So I did my undergrad in biotech. So I was very new to programming. So like because of that, I found myself spending even more time than my other classmates. But yeah, I think it depends on your skills.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. They just piggybacking a little bit on Devashish's answer. So as I mentioned earlier, we will be placing students in their first semester courses, and then our placement is going to be strictly based on what your background is. For students that have a computer science background or a data science background already, we'll place you maybe out of the introductory courses based on your transcripts or the information that you provide to us. But for students that want to stay in the introductory courses, because once again, we all come from different backgrounds, we could place you in those courses as well. So thank you, Devish, just for that, because I think that part is very important. A lot of students come in kind of worried about their background and what experiences that they have already. But our team here is really here to try and support you as much as you can and with your transition here to USC. And then with that, I actually want to stay on academics a little bit more because I think a lot of you all mentioned that you're in your last semester or very close to your last semester. So I just wanted to ask if you could all share maybe what has been your favorite class here at USC, and why? And then if you can't choose a class, feel free to share an interesting project that you've worked on as well.
I can go. Oh, go ahead, Cliff.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was just gonna say my favorite class was Data Science 552, which is machine learning for data scientists. I think the professor, I'm pretty sure we all took him, but Rajati is his name, and he's usually the one teaching the course. But once you take him, you'll know like he's so funny. And his teaching style is really great. Like he's very in depth, and like he doesn't just read off a screen. I don't think any of the professors I've had do that, but like I'm sure in undergrad, some of you guys have had some of those professors where word for word they're reading off the screen, but he is awesome. And the homeworks are very in depth, I guess. And the final project we got to use like NASA JPL data and like basically train a model to predict frost on Mars, essentially. So like just the project was super cool in itself. But yeah, definitely awesome class.
I was gonna say the same thing. I think that's especially if you do take if you're in applied data science, a lot of people will say 552 with Rajati is probably their favorite course. Kind of same thing what with Kelly, what she mentioned, the skills that they teach is very applicable in the real life situations. I've definitely had interviews where people ask me about things that I learned in the class, and I was able to answer them because of taking that course. So I think just you'll see the applicability from that course, which is probably one of the strongest things you'll take away from that course. And then, yeah, just him as a professor, I think he makes the learning enjoyable. And I've definitely had professors kind of in undergrad as well in similar courses where they make it not so enjoyable. So I think that's definitely my favorite course.
I would like to share. You want to go, Jack, first?
No, you go, it's fine.
Okay. So I would like to share an interesting project I'm working on. So I work in USC's image processing and informatics laboratory under Professor Brent Liu, who is also the co-director for the healthcare data science program. And we are currently working on a radiation therapy decision support system. And I won't go into the nerdy details, but I'll explain it in like a very short way. So anytime you are trying to treat cancer, you are exposing the patient to harmful radiation, and you want to make sure that the cancer tumor gets maximum amount of harmful radiation, but you want to make sure the surrounding healthy tissues do not get damaged due to the radiation. So we are trying to use machine learning and data science skills to find the best beam angles to target the tumor and make sure the surrounding organs remain healthy. And I think it's a very interesting project.
Yeah, so for me, I would also agree with Cliff and Kelly that 552 is a really good class. Another one I really enjoyed. So we have this thing at the USC for data science and for computer science as well, called like the special topics classes. So like 599 is the course code for that, and it's basically just random classes based on like what's kind of I guess trendy or like hot or interesting in the field of data science currently, and a professor will, teach a class on that. So the one I took last spring was called Optimization Techniques for Data Science. There was only around like 12 people in the class, which was really cool. Kind of like not something I've experienced recently, in my undergrad or even as a graduate student. So that was a really cool environment to be in. And I think just the class itself, as someone with a computer science background, it does a really good job of like bridging the gap between computer science and data science with a lot of like the computer science theory on complexity classes. And then it talks about a lot of kind of fundamental machine learning models like trees and linear regression and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good class to kind of bridge the gap there. And I really enjoyed it, and the teaching style as well.
That's awesome. Thank you all for sharing. So I know how much you all love your classes, and by the sounds of it, how much you all love Data Science 552 with Rajati. But I want to transition just a little bit and talk a little bit about just any involvements that you all might have outside of school. So whether that be, organizations, clubs, if you're doing research, maybe if you're working part-time. I just want to maybe hear about what are some things that students are doing outside of class if they're in the data science program.
Oh, go ahead, Cliff. Take this.
Yeah, so right now I'm working part-time and doing school, and that's been pretty busy but manageable. And then outside of the part-time work, I'm also part of the archery club here at USC. So kind of once a week for an hour, hour and a half, you kind of just go shoot some arrows in the gym, which is pretty cool. I also, go to the on-campus gym 3 or 4 times a week. And then kind of on the weekends, kind of hang out with friends, go try different restaurants and things along those lines. So pretty jam-packed schedule, but definitely space to do other things other than school.
Yeah, super similarly. I also work part-time and I have a hybrid schedule. So some days I'm going into the office whenever I don't have class. I I was a part of the men's rowing team here at USC. It's a club team. Super great way to get involved even if you've never rowed before. It's great to get on the water. But you definitely have to be a morning person because they wait at the bus stop at like 5:30 a.m. So that was kind of a lot at certain points, but it was fun. And then yeah, oh, actually last year I was also doing a research thing that I think could be really interesting for some of you guys, but it's basically like a pretty casual like joint research opportunity that's led by faculty, and it's called CKids. So you basically just sign on to a project for a semester, and it's kind of like a mutual selection process, I guess, in that you apply to projects you're interested in, and then they choose candidates that the team is interested in working with. But my project specifically last year crossed over with the policy school on campus. So I got to meet with a lot of other students that I normally wouldn't really cross paths with. So that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, so for me, yeah, so I'm currently obviously taking classes, and I'm also more recently got myself involved with some research with a professor I took a class with last year. So that's just kind of doing like a bunch of different little projects for him, and it's kind of it's pretty cool because it's like a practical implementation of a lot of the theory that he covered in that class. So and with that class was a more of a theoretical class, so it's cool to finally get an opportunity to implement some of the theory that he taught in that class. And on top of that, I'm in the poker club, which I go to tournaments every now and then. And last year I tried a few clubs here and there. So yeah, I think it's a really good way to like meet new people, meet people across different departments, and that kind of thing.
So like I mentioned before, I work in the research lab, but apart from this, I also play badminton in the badminton club. And there is an anime club where we just meet and watch anime together. There is a board game club where we just meet once a week and play board games. And there is an organization called Four Corners, and I recently just went to Yosemite trip with them, and I just came back yesterday from Yosemite. So yeah, there's many fun things to do outside of like apart from studies.
Thank you all for sharing. And then just the last question on my end before we open up to student Q&A. But if you are graduating this semester or graduating soon, or maybe if you don't graduate soon, but you already have your plans mapped out, just wanted to hear a little bit about everyone's plans upon completing their degree here at USC, whether that be, I know one of the Q&As actually mentioned about students that are possibly doing a PhD, but, if there are job opportunities or maybe if you have nothing lined up, but you have a specific area or a position that you're looking for, I would love to hear some more about that.
Yeah, so post grad, I'm looking to start full-time work. My plan is to convert the part-time into full-time, and that position is a data analyst position. So kind of working, implementing the skills that I've learned and then putting it to real life use. Yeah, that's kind of post-grad plans. Oh yeah, and I do graduate in May, so that'll be starting very soon.
Yeah, similar to that, I'm planning on converting my part-time role right now into full-time, and staying in LA. It's also a data analyst, data science kind of role, in professional sports, but that'll be cool.
Yeah, so I'm also graduating in May. Still also I'm still looking for jobs, but I have like an internship that I did last summer and potential opportunities with them that I'm still pursuing, kind of in the like data analyst region as well, and potentially like an opportunity with the professor that I'm doing research with as well. So those are kind of the avenues I'm exploring right now.
I am also graduating in May, and I'm also still looking for a job. I'm looking for clinical research data analyst positions or anything to do with like healthcare data. But apart from this, I also have an opportunity to apply for PhD under the same professor. Like I mentioned before, I'm working at the research lab, so I still have not decided if I want to pursue PhD or look for jobs. So I'm still trying to make a decision. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys all have a couple options and avenues that you're exploring currently. So still a lot of time left. One question I do see in the Q&A section is related to classes. So a student is asking, is there an elective class that you would all highly recommend for applied data science? And I believe most students here, except for Devashish, is not applied data science.
Well, I can say the class I mentioned earlier, which was 599, the class is called Optimization Techniques for Data Science. I'm not sure if it's offered every semester. You'd have to check. I can put the name of the professor in the chat as well. But I really like that class. I think it's especially good if you have a background in computer science, but if not, then you can kind of learn a lot of that theory as well.
If we have no other answers for that, we do have another question about just picture yourself on your first day of classes, when you first came to USC, what piece of advice would you have given yourself if you just had first started here at USC?
I would say just like kind of throw yourself at as many things as you can, and then kind of, see what sticks in terms of like joining clubs and attending, a lot of Viterbi Connection events. They're like these little events where employers will come and maybe do an info session or a hiring session. Or there's even like Viterbi Connections, they'll do like mock interviews or resume critiques or things along those lines. So I think me coming in, I was a little bit overwhelmed with how much there was to do on my plate. And I think just, trying out as many things as you can, it was kind of would be the big thing I tell myself. And then, you'll pick up things and commit to like a routine as you move forward. But at the beginning, kind of just, try as many things as you can, I would say.
I would also definitely agree with that, especially when you first come to LA. For a lot of you, it's going to be like a new country and a new city. So definitely take some time to try and explore LA, try and make friends, join clubs, and that kind of thing. And it's an important foundation to build for the rest of your time here at USC.
I would give the same advice, which is like what Cliff said. So in my first year, I was not exploring a lot of the organizations and clubs, and my life was more focused only towards studying and going back home. And another reason for that is like back in India, we do not have so many organizations and like campus activities in our universities and colleges. So like I was just used to the mindset that a university is only for studying, so like I was just doing that over here, and it took me some time to get adjusted and explore other things.
Also related to what the three of them have been saying, LA has so much stuff going on, like not even on the weekends, but also on the weekdays. So take advantage of that and just say yes to stuff. Like, for example, like there's a bunch of brand pop-ups that happen all the time. There's a bunch of freebie events. Like I forget exactly the name of the event, but like that giant book fair, like LA Times book festival, I guess, is coming to USC, and I think USC hosts it every year. But that's like an entire weekend. Oh yeah, there you go, Festival of Books. But that's a thing that happens every year. And USC hosts a bunch of like free concerts, like free food events and stuff like that. So definitely just take advantage of what LA has to offer.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So we're coming up to the end of our session today. We only have about a minute or two left, so I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. But I do want to really piggyback on what Kelly and a couple of folks mentioned about just really trying to make the most of your time here in LA. I do this presentation every single year for the last like 8 years, and I always end up saying the same thing. And the thing I always say is that LA is such a unique place because there's really nowhere else in the world where you're going to be an hour from the beach, an hour from the mountains, an hour from the desert, and an hour from just doing so many different things. LA, the city itself, is amazing because of all of the food and culture and everything that you could do. But you could really drive literally an hour in any direction and you're going to have a million different things to do. And then like Kelly mentioned, there's a lot of free things available on campus, but all through LA as well. So LA is such a unique and beautiful place. I'm not just saying this because I'm born and raised in the, I guess, LA area. I truly believe LA is just a unique and awesome place to be. So with that being said, we are ending today's session. I just want to first thank you all for joining today. We really appreciate your time. Once again, congratulations on being admitted into USC. And then I want to thank the student panelists here as well with their awesome answers and really taking the time to provide insights on their experiences here at USC so far. So really appreciate everyone's time. Once again, USC is an awesome place. LA is an awesome place. And if you do decide to come to USC, we'll be happy to support you during your time here. With that being said, I believe we're good to close today's session, right, William?
Good to go. Thanks, all.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. You have a great rest of your day, okay? Take care.